Hi everyone. Welcome into this episode. I'm putting my phone screen up just a little, put my phone screen up a little bit higher, so you'll be able to see my face a little bit better here this afternoon. And it is hard to believe that we're really getting into toward the end of the regular season. Of course, the regular season ends on Saturday for many teams. A lot of teams have secured auto bids. And of course, in our last video, we talked about the latest RPI numbers. We also used an example of what really I think would have been an at-large team last year in the national tournament, comparing them with Indiana Wesleyan this year. And of course, we also talked briefly about the Naismith quadrant and and if you're a team placed in that quadrant and you're a 14 or a 15 seed, you're more than likely one of the last few teams in. So now, and of course, we also mentioned how the quad records work, to where if you have, let's say you have a lot of quad 1 games, but then let's say the teams that you played in that quad dropped outside of the top 45 in the RPI, then therefore those games go over to quad 2, and so on and so on. And that is what, and we also talked about that. So we talked about a lot of stuff in the first video, and in this video we are really going to hone in on the updated quad records. Again, this is just the women's side. This is also a huge factor into selecting teams in the national tournament, so that's why I wanted to go over all of that with you. And there's only going to be one more of these, and that's going to be coming up right before Selection Show Thursday, I believe it's the day after all the conference tournament championship games are completed, as well as the final RPI ratings. Those are also going to be coming out Monday, March 2nd. Now, we do have one more RPI rating, which will be coming up right before conference tournaments start next week, which that video will be coming out next Monday, so make sure that you stay tuned for that. And we will have our next ARC numbers, our ARC, and those numbers will be coming out tomorrow. So again, make sure that you stay tuned for that. If I do not see that uploaded by mid-afternoon tomorrow, then I will record a video Wednesday going over all of that. So the video going over that will either be tomorrow or Wednesday. So please make sure that you stay tuned for that. And then the final ARC number will also be coming out right after the conference tournament championships. So again, this is the place to be the first week of March, because there's going to be a lot of exciting things going on that week. Very key information regarding the national tournament that I will be sharing. So please subscribe down below so you don't miss out on any of that. So now we are looking at the quad records. Now, these quad records, again, it's a major part of the criteria going into the national tournament. So we look at the last one in terms of just the Crossroads League schools only that are on the bubble. Of course, I'm just doing the bubble teams. We had Bethel out of Indiana in the Crossroads League. They were 2-6 in quad 1. They were 5-1 in quad 2, 5-0 and 3-0 in quads 3 and 4 respectively. This time, Bethel is 4-6 in quad 1, so they did pick up 2 quad 1 wins. That meaning Huntington and I believe the other one was Taylor. Yeah, I think it was Bethel beat. I know they beat Huntington, and on Wednesday. No, they beat Huntington Saturday. I think it was Saturday when they beat Huntington. I'm pretty sure they beat Huntington on they beat Huntington Saturday. I don't remember everybody that they've beaten over the past 2 weeks, but they're 4-6 now in quad 1. They were 2-6 last time. They were 5-1 last time in quad 2. This time they're 4-2 in quad 2, so they actually lost 1 game in quad 2, and they are 6-0 in quad 3. Last time they were 5-0, and they're 6-0 now. So basically, one win that they had last time in quad 2 got carried over to quad 3, which again, I mentioned briefly in my last video, and I'll mention that again this time, that if you play a team that is between a certain number in the RPI, like for example, if you played a team 0 to 45 in the RPI, that's going to be quad 1. Now, if that particular team that you played falls outside the top 45 in the RPI, then therefore that game is going to be a quad 2 game and not a quad 1. And again, this varies. It's going to change every single ARC update because teams are going to consistently fall up and down in the RPI ratings, and therefore that's going to affect your ARC numbers, or yeah, your ARC, or not your ARC, but your quad numbers. That is going to be a big thing in that category. So again, this is why the quad records are very important, because we've already seen that Bethel now has picked up one quad 3, or they picked up originally what was a quad 2 win, now goes to quad 3. And what originally was for them looking really good to be in quad 2, they lost one of those quad 2 wins that went down to quad 1. At least I think it went down to quad 1, because they were 5-1 in quad 2 last time. This time they're 4-2, and they were 4-0 in quad 4. This time they were 3-0. So yeah, they picked up one win in quad 3 and 4 this time as opposed to last time. So again, one of the teams that they played over the course of the season. This does not mean that they played any particular team over the last 2 weeks. That does not mean that that particular team has fallen that many spots in the RPI, therefore making that, let's just say a quad 1 game all the way to quad 4. That's not the case. It is who Bethel has played over the course of this year that at the time was going to be, let's say, a quad 3 game, and then that got carried over into quad 4, and then of course they got an extra win, or they got one less win in quad 3, because last time they were 5-0 in quad 3, this time they're 6-0, so they actually picked up one win in quad 3, and they picked up one win in quad 4. They did lose one game in quad 2, and they did not lose anything in quad 1. So again, when you look at your quad records, you want to have as many quad 1 wins as you can, which again, that makes total sense, right? You want to have as many quad 1 wins as you can, but at the same time, you don't want to just schedule quad 1 teams, or quad 1 games, I should say. You don't want to do that. You want to have a good balance. Now again, for contrast, you think of it this way. That if you play a team in quad 3 and 4, now again, in quads 3 and 4, you want to be perfect in quads 3 and 4. Now you do pick up now again, I did not know this until I watched some videos explaining it, and therefore I was able to understand that, and that's why I'm able to share it with you, and I hope that you will understand it a lot better as well, just like I did when I learned it myself. That if you are a quad 3 or 4 team, if you're a quad 3 or 4 team, or or I stand corrected, if you play a quad 3 or quad 4 team, you want to have wins, because now you don't get a lot of points. You don't get a lot of credit for quad 3 and quad 4 games, but don't get me wrong, they're still very important, but you get the most out of quad 1. And now out of quad 1, if you beat a quad 1 team on the road, like Bethel just did at Huntington last Wednesday, that is the most amount that you can get. That is the best. I'll say it another way. That's the best that you can do when you beat a quad 1 team on the road. That holds the most weight. That means that's the absolute best you can do, is beating a quad 1 team on the road. Now, against quad 2, you want to have quad 2 games as well. You just do, and then quads 3 and 4. If you lose to a quad 4 team, that is going to really hurt you, like what happened with Taylor with losing to Goshen. Now, granted, that game for Taylor was on the road, so again, it did hurt them. Now, if they had lost to Goshen at Taylor, then that hurts you more, because when you lose to a quad 4 team at your place, that is the absolute worst thing that can happen in terms of your resume. So I hope that you have understood things a lot better so far regarding that. So that is Bethel. So we covered Bethel. So now our next team down is going to be Huntington. Huntington, they are 5-8 in quad 1. Let me scroll down a little bit more so I can find them a little bit better. Okay, here we go. So for Huntington, they are 5-8. They're 5-8 in quad 1. For contrast, last time Huntington was 4-6 in quad 1. They're 5-8 this time. So in other words, They went 1-2 against quad 1 teams over the last 2 weeks. Again, not too terribly bad, meaning their only win against quad 1 teams over that time frame was Indiana Wesleyan. So again, good, decent win for Huntington. Now, Huntington last time was 5-0 in quad 2, and this time in quad 2 they're 4-0, so they're 4-0 in quad 2. Last time they were 5-0 in quad 2. So in other words, for Huntington, they lost a game in quad 2 that they won, that therefore dropped them one spot in quad 2, which again, that's not the end of the world. Like that's fine. Not the end of the world for Huntington. You want to be as perfect as possible in quad 2. Now, for Huntington, they don't have any more quad 2 games left because they play St. Francis and Marion. Both are quad 1 games. So right now, Huntington's 4-0 in quad 2. That does not mean that they cannot get more quad 2 wins depending on what happens when the final quad records come out in 2 weeks. Depending on what all their other opponents have done over the course of this year, it's going to be interesting to see how all that plays out. Because let's say some of their opponents they played over the course of the season, they don't have a good next couple of weeks. So therefore, Huntington's wins against them would then carry over into quads 3 and 4 when the final update or when the final quad numbers come out in 2 weeks. So Huntington they're 4-0 in quad 2. Now, last time in quads 3 and 4, they were 3-0 and 2-0 respectively. This time, they're 4-0 and 3-0. So they did not gain anything. They did not gain anything, and they did not... Actually, they were 2-0. They're 2-0 now in quad... actually, last time... Let me scroll back down. Last time, they were 2-0 in quad 4. They were 2-0 in quad 4. 2-0 in quad 4 last time. They're 3-0 now. So they did pick up one more win in quad 4, meaning that a team that they played more than likely in quad 3, that game now goes over to quad 4 because the team that they played now has dropped below 150th in the RPI. So therefore, that game now will be a quad 4 game. Now in quad 3, Huntington is 4-0 this time, and last time they were 3-0 in quad 3 last time. This time they are 4-0. So they did pick up one extra win in quads 3 and 4. So again, that's how you have to look at it. It's not like Huntington played a lot of different teams to therefore pick up wins in that category. For them, that goes off of what they did, or not what they've done, but it reflects what their opponents over the course of this season, where all their opponents currently sit in the RPI number. If their opponents sit below 151 in the RPI, then therefore that's going to be Huntington's going to get credit for a quad 4 win. If their opponents are, I believe it's 102 to 150 in the RPI, then now, as opposed to earlier in the year, then that original quad 2 win now will be a quad 3 win. So again, that's how you have to look at it. And I know this can sound super, super confusing. I hope that it is not. I hope it's very helpful and informative. So that is a look at Huntington. So now we are going to go down to the other team on the bubble, and I'm going to save Indiana Wesleyan for last. So I'm going to end part 1 of this video talking about Taylor, and then record a final part talking about Indiana Wesleyan, because I want to save the Wildcats for last, because they're, I think, the most interesting team in terms of being on the bubble. So now we're going to talk about Taylor. Taylor, last time they were 3-6 in quad 1, so we are going to go down to them. They were 3-6 last time, and again, I'm just talking about bubble teams only. I'm not talking about Marion, St. Francis, or Spring Arbor, because all 3 of them are locked in the national tournament, no question about that. So Taylor was 3-6 last time in quad 1. This time they're 4-8, so they went 1-2 over the last 2 weeks. Now, their only win in that time frame has come against Huntington. Their 2 losses came against, it'd be Bethel and not Bethel. It would be, now I don't remember off the top of my head, but I know one of Taylor's losses was St. Francis, and the other one, I know they just beat Huntington. So the only quad 1 win that Taylor has had over the last couple weeks is Huntington. Is Huntington, and that was on Saturday. So Taylor now, they are 4-8 in quad 1. Previously, they were 3-6. So again, you want to have as many quad 1 wins as you can. Taylor was I want to say they were 5-0 last time in Quad 2. Yes, they were. This time they're 4-0 in Quad 2. So they lost a game that originally went as a Quad 2 win, because whoever that opponent was fell out of the criteria for being within, I believe it was 60, I believe it's 65 to 101 in the RPI, 52 to 101, something like that. So Taylor did drop one game in Quad 2. They were 5-0 previously in Quad 2. They were 4-0 in Quad 3. Now they're 4-1 in Quad 3. So 4-1 in Quad 3. Originally they were 4-0. So they lost one game in Quad 3. So they were 4-0 in Quad. They're 4-0 in Quad 4 this time. They were 3-0 in Quad 4 last time. So they picked up an extra Quad 4 win, and they lost to Quad 3. They lost one game in Quad 3. Again, Quad 3, it's not the end of the world, but again, you do get some credit for Quad 3. Again, not a lot, but maybe some, and I think maybe the only game they lost that now has, I don't, it'd probably be Goshen. Actually, it probably would be Goshen, because that's the only Quad 3 game that they have lost, so that means Goshen must be above 151 in the latest RPI, so, and therefore that would make sense for the Quad 3 loss to be Goshen, and for Taylor to still be perfect in Quad 4, because originally Taylor, I know they were I know they were perfect originally in Quad 4. They're perfect now at 4-0. Last time they were 3-0, so they did pick up. Yeah, so their only loss has to be Goshen in Quad 3. Again, not the end of the world. So that is an updated view of Taylor. So again, for Taylor, not too terribly bad. Not too terribly bad at all. And Northwestern out of Iowa, 2-8, 5-2. Last time they were 1-10. They were 3-0 last time, and they're 3-4. Yeah, so Northwest. Yeah. So again, so that's an updated view of the Crossroads League. Now, my last team that I'm going to talk about in a separate video is Indiana Wesleyan, because this is I think the most interesting one, honestly, is Indiana Wesleyan. So I'm going to record a part 2 video talking about that. So again, make sure that you stay tuned for that. So if you did enjoy this video, please either like, comment, or subscribe. Any one of those options helps me out greatly. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you momentarily for part 2 of going over these updated quad records. God bless.